Hi, and thanks for joining us for this LinkedIn Live session today. Today we're going to be discussing how we can address the ever-changing and expanding expectations of the consumer, and for that matter, the associates within retail. My name's Mark Scanlon, and I am the Global Lead for Retail here at Cisco. And while Cisco's a technology company, my focus is actually on the business side of retail, and how we can leverage technology to drive key business metrics in the retail and distribution operations, answering the question, what can technology do for me that we get from the business? Today I'm joined by my friends and collaborators from the Webex CPaaS Solutions team, Dave Jennings and Ben Statt. Dave, I'm going to come to you first for a quick intro, but also if you can answer the number one question we got at NRF this year: do I need to be a Webex customer to be able to do what we're going to talk about?
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, and hi, David Jennings, Head of Solutions Engineering globally for the Webex CPaaS team. And the answer to that is no. Webex is a brand; it's not a product. So Webex is a suite of applications. And some of you may know devices and the Webex app and calling. We live within the customer experience side. So we're going to really talk today about how we help businesses interact with customers. And that's really my role, sitting down with customers, understanding their pain points and how we can really embed communications and messaging into customer experience. That's what CPaaS is, Communication Platform as a Service. And looking forward to talking with you both today.
And Ben?
Thank you, Mark. So yeah, Ben Statt. I'm a client director and responsible for our U.S. Global Enterprise Sales team, focused primarily on the sales side and really bringing our technology into the enterprise and working with our customers from a strategic standpoint to deploy and grow their digital innovation strategy. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Ben. Dave, if you want to go to the next slide. So earlier this year, John Furner from Walmart stood on stage, and I'm not going to read this quote at you, but paraphrasing, he was talking about the importance of the experience to the consumer. They want quick, they want convenient, they want seamless, and that's really what we're going to be talking about today. If you go to the next slide, please, Dave. And the thing to remember as you look at this slide is that problems and solutions are rarely discrete. Rather, they form a mesh. One may impact or influence another. Similarly, an application of a solution in one space can generate value for another area of the business as we go. So what you're seeing now is the most common careabouts I hear about as I talk to retailers around the globe. Things like the battle around loss and fraud within the stores. It's been a massive challenge, and it's been all over the news in recent months. So how can we move from what has traditionally been a passive loss recording position into an active loss and fraud detection motion, so we can free up those associates to do their job more efficiently without having to spend days and hours going through video looking for something they may never find. But in the spirit of that kind of interaction and meshing with other areas, there are pieces that CPaaS can deliver to this equation. Guys, do you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you, in market, we're seeing a lot of operational changes around this, right? We've all seen it in aisle. You can't get to that consumer electronics accessory because it's locked behind glass. So we've been working with a lot of our big box retailers across our portfolio around ways that we can help them regarding operational efficiency. So, for example, putting a QR code in aisle to alert a store associate or employee in an automated fashion. You're not going to search for someone, have the loudspeaker go off. We're integrating with back-end operational systems to alert through digital channels like SMS, even voice, to create alerts, notify the customer someone's on the way, and reduce that friction in the buying process.
And presumably as well on the flip side of that, if something nefarious is going on in the store, you also want to be using those channels to alert associates to something untoward, right?
Certainly. And with the integration capability of the CPaaS platform, that enables a lot of those communication without any really disruption of the customer and their buying process.
Excellent, very good. And kind of adjunct to that, safe and secure compliant environments. And as the kind of the retail guy, I tend to think about the physical space in the store, ensuring that they're up to fire code and things are being done safely and correctly. But as we're preparing for this, Dave, you brought up something which honestly I hadn't considered, which was around compliance around messaging.
Yeah, it was interesting. A very different kind of perspective on it to the traditional. And actually, even what Ben was saying there is trying to help provide that safe, secure environment between staff and shopper. I look at it a little bit more from that. Have you ever received a text from an unfamiliar number, right? Did you not know who that business was? I think everybody has probably received messages from cyber hackers or social engineering attempts from cyber criminals who are trying to become your retailer or your logistics company, and they're trying to get pieces of information from you. Some people might be aware of SIM swap or SMS phishing and data leaks, and be aware that they're on the rise. And so one of the areas that we are really trying to help with brands, and I'll bring this to life a little bit later on in some use cases, some demos as well, is around secure messaging. So traditional SMS, yeah, it can be kind of infiltrated, it can be emulated. We don't always know what that long number or short code really is or who it belongs to. But Google and Apple have really stepped up in the space, and they've started to have their own over-the-top messaging, which allows for branded, verified sender IDs. It gives you that check, that instant authenticity, really important for brand awareness, brand identity, and trust. And I think that's both especially for the customer. And as I said, I tend to look at it differently to you, Mark. You said more from the customer perspective, and how do we keep the customers safe and interacting and engaging and trusting with the brands to continue essentially spending money with them and engaging with them.
So you're telling me that SMS I received this morning saying my package couldn't be delivered, I shouldn't have clicked on that link?
It's funny you say that. We actually had a study. We looked some stuff with one of our partners, and they said that 70% of people think it's difficult to tell a genuine text message from a fraudulent one. So you're not alone. You're not alone.
I'll get in trouble with our security if I actually admit to that. Moving on, actionable insight.
And Mark,
go ahead, Ben.
There's one other point, I think, and what we're seeing a lot with a lot of our enterprise customers is compliance in terms of communication between employees and customers. And that communication needs to be captured. It needs to be stored. There needs to be records of that. All right. And so we're really helping in that regard, because when communication flows through the platform, all of those interactions are captured. All of those interactions can be moved to those safe environments and obviously mined at a later if needed. So we're seeing a lot of that, a lot of those requests, and it's really helping organizations stay compliant in terms of their messaging with their customers.
Actually, you reminded me of something there, Ben. One of my peers in the industry teams who covers FSI, he was telling me that one of the banks he works with has had massive fines because the customer service associates at the contact center were sending messages on their personal devices to consumers. That is a regulatory issue for financial services. We don't necessarily have that same level of regulation in retail, but it's certainly something that would be a policy issue for the retailer, I would think.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good. Okay, thank you. Moving on, actionable insights. How can we understand what's going on in our retail spaces, physical spaces, make better decisions and make those decisions faster? We're so used to the e-com world where we know where consumers come from, how they've traversed the site, what they've looked at, what they've actually put in their basket and what they've not, if they abandon a transaction, where and why they've done that. Now we're trying to get to that same point within the physical spaces, being able to understand all of those engagements from outside the store, where somebody's on the go and potentially using rich communication with the store, to traversing into the store, where do they go, where do they pause, what do they reach out and touch, and making that a seamless engagement, I think, is one of the areas where CPaaS can actually help in that transition from on the go to physically in the store. Any thoughts around that, guys?
I actually have a couple, and one has come to me off the back of your discussion just there, Ben and Mark, with the safe, secure, compliant, the things that the banks are doing, right, to solve these problems. We actually also work with the banks solving some of those problems for them. And from an insight perspective, they are, we're actually finding the first time we'll mention Splunk, but the ability to then integrate that data back into an environment like Splunk. So capturing the interaction history, not just providing the safe environment, but the auditing, the reporting, what happened between that store associate and that customer, what was said in that exchange. That's another really important reason to not have it on a personal device from that previous bullet point, but also that's the data. Where is it going? Can we put it all somewhere, and can we monitor it, and can we keep it somewhere safe? But yeah, and I have a second point, but I'll hold that there for you both and for a second before I jump on the AI hype train in a second and derail us.
Yeah, before you do that, Dave, that could be the rest of the time. So one of the things that's really exciting about implementing this, and it's usually you think about the customer experience first, but the data is the stake of this whole thing.
Absolutely.
And so what's really exciting is that we're able to generate new data, marry it with existing data, and get a much different view and a much more insightful view of the customer journey, the value to the business. And Mark, to your point earlier, it's not just pieces, it's the full end-to-end picture that really starts to drive value and help you make decisions to innovate. So the data part of CPaaS is extremely powerful and can't be overlooked in any way when you're implementing these types of programs.
And that is such a good point, Ben, because I was actually doing a briefing earlier this morning for a customer, and we had no shortage of data in retail. We have tons and tons of data, and most of it's never ever actioned. It's the value is bringing together that data from the engagement with the consumer that you were just talking about, Ben, with point of sale data, with other data within the stores, including potentially inputs from cameras and sensors and all of the new cool stuff that we're doing, and bringing that together to get that holistic picture of the consumer. And in that vein, I'm going to skip the next one and go down. I'm going to come back to the one top right, but I'm going to go. I'm just going to go on, Dave. You're going to say something.
No, because you are teeing up the one thing I wanted to also mention on the data piece, and I can't believe we've got here without managing to say AI yet. So that must be a record for a modern technology presentation. But what you're saying is really important, because there's a lot of hype around generative AI, LLMs. Everyone's talking about it and the world of possibilities. But to both of what you're saying there, it's not magic, right? It's called machine learning. It's called machine learning for a reason, because it's only as good as the data. If the data that isn't pristine, we've seen a few examples where you end up with kind of PR catastrophes on brands' hands and things like that. And I think that everyone's going to want to invest in chatbots and large language models and conversational AI, but until their data is in order, because as Ben said, data is the stake. It underpins everything that is going on within there. And so, low quality data, I think they say garbage in, garbage out, right? So we've got to be very, very careful what we're feeding these generative AI models when we talk about data. But also, as you said, there's data across the whole estate, and it should be making best use of all of that data and aggregating it and using it effectively. And I think once we actually had a roundtable last week with about 10 customers in New York as well, Mark, where the one barrier to them adopting some AI, they all have Tiger teams, they're all looking at it, is data quality. They're like, we don't have our data in order, so we don't trust that what we can actually give to our customers is going to be of any true material value to them until we sort that out. So data is still king, even though AI seems to be the buzzword.
I'd completely agree. And it really is getting from those data sources to something that's actionable is the biggest piece right now. Which dovetails with the rich personalized experiences. Ben, you alluded to this as well. Really building that holistic picture of the consumer allows you to get to those rich experiences, those engagements, true engagements, not just blast out an SMS to everyone and their auntie, but instead having an engagement, a personalized experience for that customer. Thoughts on that, guys?
Ben?
Well, to me, it starts with delivering on the channel of choice, right?
Yeah.
It's very obvious, but with all the digital estates you have, app, SMS across the board, social channels, etc. Really, what you deliver is important. How you deliver it is equally important. So you're not asking the customer to change their habits or etc. So I think that's kind of where it starts, and then as it relates to the personalized experience in the messaging and those integrations with back-end systems, the CPaaS platform really enables you to integrate into those systems, pull out the relevant content, and deliver not only just the 160 characters, Dave, right? But you start to look at the richer channels, delivering video, media, images, etc., and kind of change the conversation with your customer and through those innovative digital channels.
Absolutely, and again, dovetailing to that, not only the consumer but to the associate as well. They've kind of been the overlooked piece of the equation for so long. Labor has been bountiful historically, but in the last couple of years, we've really struggled to get associates back into the stores, back into the restaurants, and how do we engage with those associates and colleagues, if you're watching this from other parts of the world, to make them feel more valued, give them access to some of the systems maybe they can't currently access. I know Dave's heard the story multiple times. My son's 17. He works part-time in a grocery store, and it's a large multinational chain. It's not some local mom and pop grocery store, yet all of their processes are on paper. So he wants time off. He's got to fill out a form and submit it to his manager. Heaven forbid he's sick. He's then got to not only tell his manager he's out sick, but it's on him to SMS all of his buddies, or Snapchat as the case may be, all of his buddies, trying to get somebody to fill the shift. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could integrate with the labor management system or workforce management system, Kronos, Workday, whatever it may be, and be able to, with natural language, interact with those systems, which is going to be crucial for the next generation of associates who have that phone welded to their hand and can't do anything unless it involves tapping on a screen. Guys, thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny you mentioned Snapchat, and you mentioned these other channels, and you mentioned the way in which you interpret personalization. I think for many in our space for years, it was putting a first name, surname in an email, and that was considered personalization. Whereas as a consumer, none of us consider that personalization anymore. As a store associate, none of us consider it. I even think of the contact center agent. It goes completely both ways. Often the customer wants you to know, and the same with the associate, wants you to know where they've been, right? Know about me. You should know about me. I spend money with you. I share my data with you. I give you all this access. Understand where I've been, how I've got there. And you mentioned it up the top, Mark, as well. It's solve my problem, right? I want
Yeah.
you to be able to solve my problem, not everybody else's problem, or don't treat me as a generic, treat me as an individual. And it's very much this kind of me economy culture now. People want, it's about me, it's about solving my problem. I don't care how busy you are. I don't want to wait in a 1 hour queue while you're solving everybody else's problem. Give me tools to self-serve, make it easy for me. Convenience is becoming king for this, and that's where personalization can really help with customers, I think, as well. And you said it with Snapchat, and Ben mentioned it up the top as well. I think let me connect as easily on whatever channel I need as I can with friends and family. The next generation is going to interact with you very differently to the previous generation. And that gets into that kind of omni-channel piece as well. And make sure you're providing consistent experiences from whatever entry point I come into your organization, physical or digital. It's got to be a great experience, because you're one brand to me, even though it might be a ton of different departments and stakeholders who are serving me across that organization. I don't see it that way. So yeah, agreed.
Gotcha. Ben, anything before I move to the last one?
Well, I think going back to attracting and retaining talent, so some of the things that we're hearing and delivering a lot is on the internal communication side, whether it's benefits, recruiting, scheduling. All of those have great value to an enterprise. It's about removing friction from the job. It's about removing mundane tasks, making your job more enjoyable, and empowering your employees, associates to help customers with things that are actually a little bit more challenging, right? And so CPaaS enables that ability to automate certain things. I mean, believe it or not, we still have large enterprise customers that have their employees picking up the phone when orders ready to be picked up at the store. Kind of crazy to think about, but it does happen. And so just looking at ways across the business to enable communication and integration and automation to alleviate and kind of solve those three main things.
Absolutely. And finally, moving on to the sustainability piece. You'll hear folks at Cisco in other areas talk about sustainability in terms of reducing cost of operating your network from a power consumption and recycling your old network hardware, etc. But there are so many other areas in retail operations where we can start to help retailers impact their Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3 sustainability goals in terms of changing how they operate. Whether that's how they're communicating, how you receive your receipt as a consumer, taking the paper out of the operation or reducing the number of truck rolls to a store. Dave, I know you've come across some examples where we're delivering on those kinds of opportunities, right?
Yeah. Digitization for me is probably the key area, right, for us, where we can really add value. Younger generations in particular are very involved in social issues, and they want to support organizations that share their values. So it's not just a case of doing it for meeting your net carbon zero footprint or whatever. It's how they want to interact with you as an organization. And one way I look at it is your mobile wallet. I think mobile wallet is a great area. We're familiar with many of these really big brands who have done a great job on loyalty programs, and they print off these long receipts for you to go and here are all my coupons. Great, but you've got to evolve now, because that's a little bit of a waste of paper, and it's also not that convenient. I've got to keep those on me. People don't have these fat wallets anymore. Some people are just sliding cards into the back of their phone, and I think that the mobile wallet, like Apple wallets, Google wallets, great alternative to transactions that would have traditionally taken place through a paper exchange or a plastic exchange. Even people can have their health cards, people can have their bank cards, but people can also have their loyalty cards on their mobile device. These can be also, it's great for the business because these can be updated. These can, once I get to the next tier, that can be automatically updated on my device. So I don't need download a new piece of information. It can be automatically uploaded. And one of the other cool things we see as well is geofences can be applied to them. So you can also go, next time I walk past your store, I'm going to get a notification saying, hey, you've got a voucher that expires with us in 3 days. but good news, you're 50 meters away from retailer X. And so it's actually good for both consumer and brand, and it's also, of course, environmentally, from environmental standpoint as well.
Actually, you triggered a thought there with the alerts piece, Dave, or the proximity and geofencing. One of the grocery chains I work with also has retail pharmacy within the store, as many do in the US. Their cost to return a prescription to stock, if it hasn't been picked up within 3 days, is $40 to $45.
Wow.
So being able to engage with the consumer when they're proximal to the store, and say, hey, Dave, don't forget you got a prescription you need to pick up. Those sorts of things can actually save, well, one, it's a benefit to the consumer, obviously. They're not going to run out of their key med, but also the retailer isn't incurring that kind of cost. But there's all sorts of ways to extrapolate that in terms of things that you could communicate to the individual who's proximal to the store.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very good.
Cool.
Excellent. Well, thanks for your thoughts on these. I say these are very common careabouts across the industry, and they all intertwine, and really it's like a big Venn diagram. Lots of overlaps and adjacencies. Right now, we're going to go on to take a look at some of the apps in action. Actually, I shouldn't call them apps, should I? Really, we're talking about workflows and engagements. Dave, you going to take that away for me?
Yeah. I'll move through this with some haste, but I'm just going to take you through a few examples to bring to life what we've talked about. Really, it's all get us sitting there talking about it. What are we doing? How are we actually driving innovations for the convenience for the customer and adding value for the brand using some of these messaging channels? I will do my best as well to try and weave those themes that we've just talked about into the discussion. So first up, I'm going to look at digital innovation. I think we mentioned order pickup, we mentioned store associates, empowering them. So this should weave in a couple of those themes. In this example, you're going to see us meeting a customer where they are. So giving them the information they need before they ask for it, curbside pickup. What bay are you in? Easy for the store associate to then just come out and deliver it. It's making everybody's time and life efficient, using automation rather than manual processes like Mark was alluding to. So we've empowered the staff, we've made things efficient, but we're going to now show a more complex version of this same journey where someone might, as we were discussing earlier, want to escalate to a member of staff. They might want to speak to somebody. We don't want to send them into a contact center. We want to give them to somebody who can really help them in that store and empower the individual. So when they respond chat, we can escalate to a point of sale device like a Zebra or something like that, where we can embed this app for them to respond to, or WebEx. So we did say we do integrate with WebEx. So the WebEx app, we can also integrate to the WebEx app so that store associate can either be behind a desk or they can be roaming the shop floor on their phone. Perfect for that deskless worker to be able to pick up this issue with Mr. Kirby. And when they do pick it up, Mr. Kirby stays on his SMS. So he is not experiencing any friction. He is staying within the channel of choice that he entered in. And that store associate can then start to solve their problem. We also mentioned earlier as well, collecting critical interaction engagement data. So we're understanding what's happening. We're feeding that back into Splunk or other systems of record for actionable insights to improve that customer experience next time. Okay, I'm going to move through and then show a returns journey now. So this is going to be a complex returns journey. I think many battleground for retailers today is returns. It's a huge problem. It's really tough to solve for. It's not very environmentally friendly either, I'll add. So this is Apple's rich messaging channel. A customer scanned that QR code and it pops open this with all the metadata. Why I say metadata, that's personalization for want of a better word, right? That's passing through all that information you already know on the customer. You're not asking them to type in who they are. You've got that in the QR code. That means that you know what products they bought, so you can give them lists of only things that are relevant to them. So the real focus here, of course, is automation and personalization. But we also, we're actionable insights again. What we can ask them questions because we've got Apple's rich list pickers to collect that information, understands what's happening as the customer triages through these different paths, keeping the customer in control, but guiding them. One of the advantages of like this tap, not text like features they've got, whilst natural language is great, it often leads to complications and too many variants and ways of asking a question. And we could also argue some of that sustainability piece at the end, right? We can reuse the original packaging that was sent to the customer to package it up in. The customer can have a digital barcode at the end there that you saw. They can bring to their local depot. No need to print it off and then just scan it. They can go to a depot rather than have another driver come out to them, so we can guide them to the most efficient and environmentally friendly place as well. Come on to one of the last examples. This is going to play out a voice message, and I'll rejoin you after it.
Hello,
it plays,
thank you for contacting the Woodbury support line. Please listen to the following menu options in order to best assist you. To speak with a live agent, press 1. For help with an order or delivery, press 2. For a regular and holiday business hours, press 3. To chat with an agent now via text message, press 4. The current wait time to speak with a live agent is 30 minutes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Thank you for your selection. You will now be receiving a text message to begin your chat session. Goodbye.
Yeah, so we've all been here. You could hear the groans on the phone. I think 80% of customers, there was a study that we saw that had all heard your call is important to us, but you're going to wait an hour. People don't feel like your call's that important to them if you ask them to wait an hour. But the good news is you can deflect them. Don't just send them to the website. Don't just say, yeah, go on a website and find out how to solve your problem yourself. You already have them. You already know who they are. They've already probably given you some ID and V and some information. They've probably typed in an order number or something already. And then you can triage into a messaging channel. You can, again, use that personalization, all of that data coming through about the product, the size, the address. You know everything about this customer. And again, you can allow them to self-serve. When we mentioned the data, measure. Make sure that if you're introducing these chatbots or these new experiences and you're nervous about them, well, measure. Ask how you've done at the end of it. Do the data capture. And continue to iterate and improve and work out, what bots are customers using, what questions are they asking, and you can continue to evolve these to solve more and more customer issues that Ben said earlier. Those mundane tasks that the contact center agents are waiting to help someone with a password reset or look up a "Where's my order" thing, when it's just sat on a website somewhere and they're just going to be looking up in the same system that this bot can dip into. Why wait?
And Dave, you're showing 160 character text there, right? Obviously with more rich communication channels, and the ability to deliver images and media, etc., you can start to have those self-serve interactions and more complex type of queries, right? And so we're seeing a lot of that now. Thanks, Apple, for announcing that you're looking hard at RCS, and the ubiquity of some of these future messaging channels are growing, which is making them a lot more attractive to enterprise to really start to dig in, understand how they can use them and solve more complex problems. So,
yeah, well, you're talking about attractiveness of new messaging channels. That does segue me into the final example I've
perfect.
got. Branded text. So I mentioned branded text, and I fully understood when I'm trying to explain it to people. Maybe they don't fully picture what I mean by this branded experience. So hopefully the visual brings it to life. It's that sender ID is the most important thing here to note. I will get onto what Ben said afterwards, because you can also see some richer imagery coming through and a more interactive experience as well. But really, the most important thing is you can elevate existing SMS for anyone whose device is RCS capable. That means they're likely to be, it's on an Android device today. In certain markets, it's anywhere between kind of 30 and 50% of the base. So a significant number of customers are eligible for this. Obviously, retailers are very proud of their brands. They have really strong branding. So you can add all of that branding into these experiences. And of course, there have been announcements from Apple recently that they are expanding RCS and the RBM network as of the release of 18 to Apple devices. So watch this space. We may be seeing that reach go up to the 80-90% in most Western markets by the end of the year, early next year. So a really exciting time for brands to start to think, how can I adopt this technology before it becomes commonplace? Their competitors are doing it, and they're left scrabbling around, kind of trying to pick up the pieces of, when we're all ready to kind of deploy this stuff today. All this is called future messaging, but I would say it's the present really now. Guys, I'm going to hand back over to you. And first of all, Ben, just to really summarize and put it together we've talked about a lot today, but how would we get started? There's a lot of concepts, there's a lot out there, there's a lot of technology, there's a lot of business problems. Maybe you can guide some of our listeners and viewers.
Yeah, you bet. And actually, it's not that tough of a question to answer. Our clients are in different phases of their digital innovation and journey, right? But really, it boils down to really three main considerations to me. And we see this replicate over and over with our enterprise clients. One is don't boil the ocean. As Dave mentioned, there's just so much you can do with CPaaS. And it is an enterprise-wide platform that can be adopted across all your lines of business across the enterprise. But you really need to focus in on the high-value use case or two to get started, right? What's going to provide the most value to the business, and focus in on that, land that type of use case, and then look at growing it. The second is to control the complexity of the implementation. A lot of our approach is around a minimum viable product or capabilities, and then build on it. So your speed to value's there. It will support the investment that the enterprise is making, and it allow you to learn along the way, which is the third point of deploy and learn, where you're constantly, as you deploy, mining that data, understanding the customer behavior, understanding the value to the enterprise. And that next phase will definitely be informed and could change based on the data that you're really looking closely at as you deploy. And that allows for that kind of cyclical kind of development process. And in the end, you're delivering something that has value quickly to the business, and the end state, if there ever is one, right, Mark, is very well refined based on data that you're collecting along the way. So, Mark, did you have anything else to add on that?
No, I think in the interest of time, I think we're good there. We will wrap it up. Gentlemen, thank you for participating today. For more information, you can visit cpaas.webex.com. Feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn, or you can chat with your Cisco or Meraki account teams. They will bring us in as appropriate. But in the meantime, thanks for your time. Hope this was valuable, and we look forward to seeing you again. Thank you.